Folks, hello and welcome to Dungeons, Dragons, and Discourse. I am Eric
That's what they
Tenkar.
call it.
That's what they call it. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll call it something different at some other point. But for now, it's the Triple D live stream.
That's right.
I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. With me, as always, every other Friday night, is none other than Old
Co-host.
Man Grognard, Glen House.
Hiya, folks. Hiya, folks.
So, Glenn, what? Yes, Matt. So, by the way, Eric,
Gotcha already.
listen, 2 minutes.
Eric laid again.
You know what? So we're like those fucks at roll call where they believe that the Sarge doesn't really start roll call until like a few minutes after roll call is supposed to start, and I'm one of those fucks. All right, so there you go.
What can I say?
Busting my balls. I don't know. In any case,
Well, we can bust our own balls on here.
that we certainly could. My balls get busted all the time.
Well,
Yes.
how are you?
Well, see, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but the doxing drama has continued. So yes.
Is this like you got the bad news and I got the good news, or what?
I don't know. I mean, somebody.
Ours isn't that great.
Yeah, it's like in the background. This isn't that great, but it's more an annoyance than anything like serious.
Right.
I can imagine.
I have a very opinionated wife, but in any case, when we're doing this, my wife Rach has been going through a package of 230 printed out pages of background information on public documents that somebody sent me about a certain individual who is like 100% likely to be the person behind the document.
You mean Lamessa?
Lamessa, lasagna. I've heard Lanasty. I think Lanasty isn't bad, actually.
What a Lamessa.
Yeah. Hey, listen. I don't know if you've seen this, but I'm certainly happy that I'm not going to GaryCon this year. Did you see the latest GaryCon talks? Apparently,
the last thing I saw was your tavern chat on how he doxed your wife. So
okay. So I mean, it's. I'm assuming that TSRCon is probably not going to happen, being that Dave Johnston, the writer of Star Frontiers, announced that he has COVID. So I'm assuming,
really?
Yeah. So I'm assuming that with I think 12 people signed up for 4 games, that con's not going to happen. But here's the other interesting part. Lanasshole. I hadn't thought of that one.
Never heard that one.
That's a pretty good one. That's from Triple T. We're gonna call Tabletop Tap from Triple T. No, there's a problem with GaryCon. Apparently, they were doing renovations at GaryCon, or at least the facility, the Geneva Estates or whatever they
like
call
Geneva,
it.
whatever.
Yeah, the Grand Geneva. There we go. So, my understanding is that even before they opened up registration last year, they pulled a block of rooms out and said, listen, we got renovations going on, so you got less rooms than you think you have, so let's just make sure we only reserve the rooms that we know we have. But that was a bad gamble, because apparently there's like 70 rooms they thought they had that they don't have. So people who got confirmations, apparently like yesterday, earlier in the day, saying, we're looking forward to seeing you at the Grand Geneva, got back responses like an hour later. This email is to inform you that your reservation has been moved to, and in some cases, the villas. And I stayed at a villa one year as an upgrade, and yeah, it was a bit of a pain because you had to walk or get the shuttle to get to the convention, but it was like having a private home. It was nice. Others got moved to the water park on the property, like a mile away, and they're not. They're none too happy. I don't think you can blame the convention per se, but there, again, I've been reading some of the comments on the Facebook page, and some people complaining that, hey, I got 2 rooms and I got, damn, Glenn, your stomach is loud. I'm joking.
I
But
told them to be quiet.
it's okay. Listen, they're kids. It ain't gonna happen. Trust me. But one person was complaining they got 2 rooms. They booked them at the same time within like minutes after room booking went live. Because if you don't do it in the first 10 minutes, you won't get shit.
Right.
One room got moved and one room didn't, which is kind of like you're going quite in order of when people reserve rooms. But I don't know. Well, policy. Who knows?
Yeah. Understood.
I mean,
well,
I'm glad that we're going to North Texas, but North Texas doesn't seem to have those issues.
North Texas still loves us.
Yes, thank God.
Well, let me tell you what happened.
First off, the good news, Glenn. Yes.
First off, I got a new microphone from Mr. Eric Tenkar.
Actually, he got a new microphone because people like you, our listeners.
Thank you.
It's advertising money.
You're sounding like PBS more and more every day.
But seriously, I mean, I'm able to purchase things like a new mic for you. I got a new headset for Bad Mic a while back. These things are capable of happening. I was
so impressed. I bought a case for it. Whoops!
I told you it's a great mic. This is the Elgato.
Elgato Wave 3.
It is amazing.
In fact, what's so funny is, we got. I got a new computer out of it too, because Becky decided to give me an early birthday present. So I've got a decent computer with hopefully a better frame rate on this.
Oh,
and that's why you can see me better. Plus, I bought a ring light, and all my electronics are working. I'm not used to that. Usually, something won't work. I even got old software I use for webcams on here that didn't work with the other one. It works like a charm on here.
There you go, Glenn.
There you go. But hey, I'm electronically up to snuff, as they say.
Up to snuff.
Oh, you want to hear something funny?
Sure.
On Facebook, when I got this mic, I was on Facebook, and I put a picture. Remember, I put a picture of the mic saying thank you to Eric, and all that. And Mr. Woodard came back and said, "Now, if you can just get your wife to fix your internet connection." And I was like, yeah. But Becky took that a little hard. So what is he talking? We have the best internet connection that Cox offers. I said, he's just talk. He's just busting my chops. Don't worry about it.
Well, you look and sound awesome. And I mean this in a completely platonic manner. I'm not trying to pick you up, Glenn. Your wife might get a little annoyed. But
if I get roses in the mail, I'll know who sent them. So
roses in the mail coming from New York, they better be dried.
Yeah.
Look, you got fresh roses. They're all wilted. What the hell is this?
And it didn't take me long to set this setup up too. I mean, it was like I had beforehand. I took a screenshot on my desktop,
right? And
then I decided what I'm going to move to where, and I made a list of all the programs I needed on here. Got them all on. Boom! This usually takes like a day and a half or something, because I'm always like, oh crap, I can't do my podcast because I forgot to install this. That kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, everything went smoothly. I'm not used to that.
Very cool, man.
Very.
This is like it's a total upgrade to the vidcast. It's awesome.
Yes, and now I need the con to go as smooth as this. Getting in the con.
Well, I mean, and let's be honest. I mean, we were lucky that we had North Texas last year. I mean, North Texas didn't miss a beat. They had North Texas during the beginning of COVID in 2020.
Yes.
Although a very reduced gathering. We had it last year, and it was a pretty full-size gathering. Now, the interesting thing is last year, because it was Texas, there was no mask mandate, right? A handful of people
Yeah,
decided to
that
wear
was
masks
nice.
on their own.
That was nice.
Yeah. So now I was, Rach and I was supposed to go to ShireCon before I had car problems in September. And I, again, a blessing that I was able to get my new car as quickly as I did. Thank God somebody's financing fell through. I was able to get the floor model. And we were supposed to do Game Hall, but weren't able to do Game Hall. I was not supposed to do GaryCon, but we did plan on going to TotalCon. But when TotalCon came around, it was still masks. And what are those mask policies of you can't eat or drink at the table, at the gaming table. You can only eat or drink in designated areas.
Oh, if you're in the restaurant or something,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was like,
sitting down to eat. Okay.
I can't do that. I'm gonna be going to a convention where I'll be locking myself in my room and not socializing, and that's
And if you're running a game, there goes half your GMing right there. Got to be able to see your face.
yeah. Well, see your face, project, especially at a convention.
Yeah.
You know,
Even though we get away with it on Mondays on Rule 20, I don't know how.
oh yeah. Well, we do that with between Roll20 and Discord. We get away with that because when we don't see, we know. Well, I guess because it's an established group, everybody knows each other. So you've already got that kind of a connection going on that you know to some extent what your fellow gamers, what your fellow players in the party are probably expressing. You can hear it in their voice and you can kind of picture it. At a convention, you're playing with a table that's likely strangers. And as a GM, making that connection, usually your first 30 minutes of gaming as a GM at a convention is trying to establish that connection with your players. It's harder to do wearing a mask. And I mean, I know when I GM at conventions, I stand up. I'm a stand up. Tenkar's a stand up guy. No. Tenkar just stands at conventions when he's running a game because I'm usually in a position where I need to talk over other games, other background noise, and it's a lot easier for me to do so if I'm standing up. And I can close the gap. I can move towards the player that I need to interact with, and I can gather that attention. Right, I can be a bit more active and mobile. Whereas I'm sitting down, I lose that ability, and that's fine if I'm running with my regular group. If we're playing in somebody's house or a quiet room at a game store, but if I'm in the midst of a crowd of other games, I need to gather that attention, gather that focus. You can do that on Roll20 with an established group just by being the DM and calling people on their crap, I guess. But
yeah,
you at a convention. I mean, you run games at conventions. What's your secret to?
My secret, I just do it.
Fair enough.
I want to confess, I I missed most of what you said because I was having trouble with my earbuds.
Oh,
it kept lowering, and all of a sudden, I'm just watching your mouth move. So I fixed it.
Well, basically,
anyway, like I said,
what methods do you use at conventions to keep your players focused on you, as opposed to, players are like herding cats. I got to even mention, like you have cell phones and tablets at the table.
Well, a loaded 38 at the table always helps.
I've tried that; doesn't always help.
You're right, but that's a common problem anywhere. It doesn't, not even conventions. I mean,
true.
At conventions, I managed to keep them interested in the game. Also at conventions, you've got the added problem of being in, say, a room with like 5 other games going on.
Yep, that's why I stand. That's why
the noise thing. Last year they put me in the main room, and well, it was all right because they only had a few games going, but one table was being so loud. Gage walked over and said, "Hey guys, can you keep it down? We're trying to hear the GM." So that happens. That's just stuff you just got to deal with it. It's not like I'm going to drop my pants just to get their attention.
Jeez, Glenn.
I do it for fun. No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, dropping your pants to get the attention of your game table. I mean, there's different methods. I mean, the best thing that I actually heard, and I hadn't thought about this, because I'm not the only person I've found out that prefers to stand, especially at gaming conventions, to project and to move around so you can keep the party focused on you. But I always like to have a corner of the table where I can roll dice at. And I was talking, and somebody else was like, "Oh no, I have my players roll everything. They just don't know what they're rolling for." I'll just tell them, "Okay." And I'm like, you know what? That's not a bad idea.
Oh, I see that happen all the time in games. I mean, you opened the door. Matt will go, roll a D8. Tell me what you got. And then he'll tell you the consequence. You don't know what you're rolling for. Opening the door, or something behind the door, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's common stuff.
Even have you roll the monster's attacks and damage.
Oh yeah, and I always also worry about being the one table that is too loud at the convention.
Yeah. See, that's. I mean, as a DM, you have to be the focus of your table.
Right.
As a player,
it has to.
Right. As a player, I'm often nervous about becoming the focus of the table. Because as a player, you want to make sure that everybody shares in the experience, shares in the
right.
Especially in convention play, you'll have a player or two that are less vocal, less, I don't want to say more meek, but maybe they're less assertive, and then you have others that are extremely assertive, and it's a hard balance sometimes.
It can be. And the hard thing for me is usually the people who take the focus at the table are very charismatic. And if I don't watch myself, I start playing to them and not to the table.
You know what? I know what you're saying. And that's a hard one because it's very easy to play off of the players and personalities that are playing off of you. And
right.
Yeah, no, it's they're giving you that back and forth feedback as opposed to the less assertive players that you have to almost force that out of them. It's easy to play up to the audience that gives you the feedback.
In my Monday game, one of the guys, Jimbo, is very, very quiet. In fact, when we're doing face-to-face games, not on Roll20, his house is what we use because he has a basement all set up. But sometimes I forget he's there, especially if we're on Roll20 and we don't use the camera, so we don't see each other.
Right.
And fortunately, I'm not the GM, so But when I'm there, he's usually sitting to my left, to my left side,
right.
And so I can see him out of the corner of my eye. And every once in a while, Jimbo, what are you doing? That kind of thing. I mean, he doesn't mind either. He's one of those players where he just sits there until he has to act. I mean, he role plays and stuff like that, but you got to kind of engage him a little. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If they're split up on the town, they're going shopping over here. This going looking for this and looking for that, and he goes with a group. And I got to say, okay, you guys, you got the potions from the temple, fine. Okay, Jimbo, what is your group doing? I throw it to him because other people will just come back, and go back and forth. I mean, we have some brilliant role players in my group, brilliant role players, but I got to give, you got to give everybody a chance.
And
the spotlight is all on you from the players, but then you have to take that spotlight and shine it on each one individually during the game.
And it might not happen for everyone in each session, but you should get it over the course of 2 or 3 sessions. Everybody should have a chance to really shine and shine
Yeah.
bright. Now that's harder though at a convention because it's one and done for the most part.
Yeah, because it's all one shots. I mean, there's some where they do like 3-part games
Right.
and that kind of thing, but it's usually one shots.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that.
It's harder to, and it's also harder to, I guess, figure out in that time frame which of these players, literally, we're not talking about the characters, which of these players do I have to make more of an effort to engage with to make sure that they're part of it? Now, maybe they, and my experience is that for the most part, even players that aren't actively engaging want to be more engaged in the process. So bringing them into it again is great. But some of them are of the, they're just happy to be part of the experience, and some aren't looking to do much more than
he's the kind of person. He's the kind of person who just enjoy basking in everybody else's shenanigans. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. I've had because I have several players that stayed in the background like that. I try to clue the other players into helping them get more involved. Yes, he does. In fact, he's got more of a challenge because usually I'm in his Toon games. And having people in the background in Toon is not fun.
No, you Toon, everybody's got to be part of it.
Yeah.
Jerry, the hardest thing for me at conventions is realizing the players do not know any better if I mess something up. Well, if you mess up...
How is that hard?
Right.
I just count my blessings and go on.
Right. They don't know because hopefully it's not an adventure that they've ever read, and it's not part of an established campaign where you're going to screw up the name of an NPC because, I don't know, you improvise them and now you've forgotten what the hell the name was. Right. I mean, to step away from convention play for a second, I mean, my tool when I have run games on like Roll20 and such, where a lot of times I have to improvise as the session goes on, I'm usually about run with the feel. It's better to keep the action and the momentum moving than stop to figure out a rule or to double check your background and those plot specifics. And sometimes you fuck that up. But I always would ask my players, hey, listen, if you want a 10% expo bonus, give me a write-up. Most of them had blogs back when we did this a couple of years ago, and they would just do a write-up on their blog, and then I could go and I could get the opinion from 3 or 4 different people as to how they saw the session play out. And also you learned what was important to your players. If everybody wrote about the same encounter, then you're like, holy shit, that worked. And if everybody ignores other stuff, then you know what they're not thinking about. So they were getting plot hooks. So
I ran an RC game at North Texas about 5+ years ago. Yes, Toon, it is a blast. But I ran one about 5 or 6 years ago. There's one guy that's still carrying around like the magic item I gave him, and his DM said it was okay. So, every once in a while he says, yes, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to use your magic item. Okay, fine, cool. Have fun. I don't even remember what I gave him.
Now, Chip says sometimes they're just sitting back enjoying themselves and being amused by the conversations and happening.
Exactly.
Which is fine. But you want to ensure that they have an opportunity to be the one amusing the others as part of that conversation.
I think Jimbo just became a verb because O'Neill Flynn said, I'm a Jimbo a lot of the times.
There you go. It could be.
Yeah. I'll have to tell him about that. He'll get a kick out of it.
Jimboing.
But, he steps when he needs to. He steps up, and he has had some of the greatest moments in the game. And he's not one to, witty dialogue and stuff like that. It's like some of the players. In fact, the wittiest thing I ever saw once, I was running a Tunnels and Trolls game, and he was playing a dwarf or something, and they were in this dungeon where these goblins were tormenting a halfling who was the cook. He was forced to be the cook in this goblin. They kidnapped him and they found out he could cook, so they made him a cook. He had a ball and chain around his foot, and so we dispatched the goblins, and he's going like, "Who the hell are you guys?" And Jimbo just goes, "Catering."
Nice.
I'll never forget that. That was great.
Well, but you know what? A lot of times it's those one-liners when we were in a Tim Shorts game, and if you ask anybody who's played in Tim Shorts campaign, it is stepping out of your hovel is a potentially lethal activity.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. And I forget exactly. We got like stuck at a checkpoint, and I fell into my Monty Python voice, talking about my Potterize. Would you like to buy my Potterize? And some very lucky dice rolls and some good role playing got us out of a tough situation. Now, that I had a great time doing it, but at the same time, as I'm finishing up with it, and it went on for about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, I also became conscious that now I've taken the spotlight, and how do I... Because you're conscious, at the DM, you turn into a player, you become conscious of that fact.
Yeah. After about 5 minutes of that, I'm going, shouldn't somebody else be speaking? I had a, in the Thursday game with Matt Evans, my challenge is, where can I work in the pun? And he's been known to throw puns around too. I mean, one guy just got a wand that turns people into frogs. The activation word is comet or Kermit.
Oh, Kermit. Okay.
Kermit. And last night we dispatched some zombies in coffins, in sarcophagus. Okay. And I said, my dwarf leaps up and I drop a deuce in the coffins. He said, well, that's kind of gross. He said, yeah, well, I want to make sure they're interred. And mine usually come out of like left field, and he just like it. We got to wait for him to stop laughing. I mean, yes, I am. Yes, I am, Doc. I am.
Glen Hellstrom, Punslinger.
Punslinger.
Anything like Alan Dean Foster's Spell Singer series of books, but that's no.
Could be.
Oh no. John Miller says the Punisher. Oh God,
Punisher. That's a good one too.
All right.
The pun father.
You're killing me, Glenn. You're not killing me softly either, but you are killing me.
You know, the first time I did it, that we found a stone arm of a statue in a dungeon, and we were getting into another fight, and he says, okay, does that guy have the armed statue over there? I says, yeah. I said, good, he's armed. Okay, let's go. And it's like, what's he laughing for? That was nothing.
All right, so then, since we're on this topic, I'm gonna bring this up, and folks, as usual, none of these topics are well planned.
No.
We've kind of touched upon humor in RPGs, and we have games that are geared for it, right? You mentioned Tune before. Somebody else brought up Paranoia.
Right.
These games are certainly of the more.
The humor games,
slapstick.
Tune aside, something like Paranoia works great as satire, and that kind of humor can go over sometimes at the table. Yes.
You generally need something like Paranoia works well as a one shot or as a break in your regular campaign. I think a long-term campaign of Paranoia would be detrimental to many groups.
Another good game for a humorous comedy game would be Ghostbusters.
I still kick myself for no longer having that game in my collection. I have no idea what I did with my original.
I still have a box set in my collection with the ghost die.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's
in fact,
that's
Vince printed out a ghost die for me on a 3D printer.
Uh-huh.
And he had the logo on there. Unfortunately, the face wasn't on the ghost. So to me, it looked like he was hanging his butt out.
Oh, nice. Well, that's appropriate to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah, he's right. That's what I said. Satire is good. Yes. Me likes some satire. In fact, I tried working into Gangbusters once in a while. Along with
yeah.
They're killing each other. They're killing each other. What the hell?
Oh, that's okay, man. It sounds a little bit like I don't know, such enough paranoia. Usually had somebody whining. It's like, that's not fair. Paranoia. Like, I think the longest we ever played Paranoia with the same character was like 3 sessions, because, yeah, you don't want to run it like a campaign, because then players won't do what you need them to do in the 2 or 3 sessions that you're going to run it. So,
right. You're absolutely right, sir.
But now, how do you handle humor in like non-humorous games? I mean, like I'm the jackass. Matt, if Matt Jackson's still here, he'll again. I do the one-liners,
He'll back you up.
The quick jokes. I will do that to break the tension, and sometimes I have to stop myself. It's like, oh, I already did this like a few minutes ago. It's too early for me to be the dick again. But I mean, how do you handle that as a player and as a GM? Because I mean, I think what I would, I don't know, do as a player might not offend, but annoy me if I did it as a GM to myself, because I would have been breaking up. So we had a nice tense atmosphere going on, and I was really setting the stage, and then this asshole crapped the joke on me, and everybody was laughing, and then you lost the tension. I don't know how that would work.
You're right, and you gotta have the. I'm one of those people who think that there's nobody on this earth that does not have a sense of humor, and to me, it's all depends on the development of it,
right?
How developed it is. But you gotta, as a GM, you gotta be kind of like okay with it. And I've seen some GMs who are way too serious. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like they make you feel like you're mocking their campaign world.
Well, yes, I've seen that. And
yes.
You're not mocking it, you're actually engaging with it, I would say, because you're making, you only make levity out of that which you're enjoying. If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to take the effort to make levity out of it.
Well, and I'm there's people like Doc and me who are kind of made for it. I mean, my campaign world, I've got Jewish dwarves,
okay,
and stuff like that, and I mean that in and of itself, that's not funny, but the way I use it is, and you gotta, I throw little bits and pieces like that in there, and I try and give things that I have things set up so it's kind of at least satirical, such as like all my gnomes in my world are some variation of like Doc Brown in Back to the Future. They're all inventors. They're all
okay,
crazy mad scientist types.
But they're not.
I just love that.
They're not Tenkar gnomes, because I'd have to reach out to the screen and probably slap you. That was Tinker gnomes, belly dwarves, and Kender are like my 3 worst technical.
I don't mind Tinker dwarves.
Oh,
I don't mind Tinker gnomes.
No, I couldn't.
No. Kender, that's another story.
Well, I mean, Kender as written and Kender as played are two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kender as written, and this is not written for the game, but written for the fiction, is they're inquisitive. Almost think of them like a cat-like race because they want to know everything and find everything and get involved in everything and seem to have 9 lives and whatever. But as written up as a player character race, they became these kleptomaniacs, or at least that's how every group I was ever in that tried to play them treated them as. It's like, well, I never treated a halfling as a kleptomaniac, but my Kender's a klep. It's like, no, I can't deal with this shit.
Oh God, yeah. He don't want him in his game either.
It's
I
like,
don't blame him. Oh yeah, Doc. Yeah. Once again, we line up because I'd have these guys. I'd have 1 or 2 of them. They have all sorts of inventions, and they would give them to adventurers to quote unquote field test them.
Oh well, in that case,
to see if they worked. And there's usually some variation on a spell where they can use it if they don't have a mage, or they need somebody use it who isn't a mage, who can't really read a scroll or anything like that. So I give them these like field test stuff. What I like about it is the fact that once it gets too much of a pain in the butt for me, I can have them like explode or something, and also they run on magic stones, which he enchants with magical energy. You drop the stone in or put it in there and whatever, and then the magical effect happens.
Okay, well that's a pretty
so
cool.
that limits it too, which I like.
See,
I gave a guy his prototype gauntlets of ogre strength, but you had to drop a magic stone in each one, and it works for so many hours, or turns or something like that, until the magic stone gets used up.
Oh, you need new batteries, man. You need new batteries. You can't.
That's right. That's right.
But yes,
that is
John,
right.
Greg Lance really had the trifecta of crappy demi-humans, didn't it? And I think there's a reason why. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they were used in the fiction. These races, and yes, I know there's going to be a fraction of the audience is like, well, they really should be called races, whatever, species, heritages. But they were these backgrounds, Kender, Gully Dwarves, and Tinker Gnomes. These were brought in for your either slapstick humor or silly humor, or so they were brought in for a reason for the fiction, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they fit in as player character options, because what works well works in fiction. I'm not going to say it works well, but what works in fiction on some level does not necessarily work in an RPG session. And I often think that people forget that. It's like, yeah, I love Conan. I want to play Conan. Well, Conan doesn't really work in an RPG session because you got to build up to being Conan. That character has to evolve.
Well, barbarians start small and grow.
Right.
I guess those are your type races you don't want in your world, right? Your world. I'm talking you.
Right.
Eric Tenkar.
If you were Matt Jackson, it'd be any kind of gnomes would not be allowed in this world. That's why everybody runs gnomes when he plays.
Yeah, sorry. That's the thing. See, somebody says there are no such and such in this. Okay, I can deal with a campaign world where you say there are no elves or there are no whatever. And that's fine. But I'm the kind of guy who said, I want to take that race and make it playable. I can do it. And I remember playing a Living Force game back in the RPGA days. I played Living Force with D20 Star Wars.
Okay.
And I turned to the GM and I said, well, what kind of race do you not want us to play? And of course, first thing out of his mouth was Gungans. He said, Glenn, what are you going to play? I'm going to play a Gungan. You know, you wave the red flag in front of the bull, you know, he's going to charge. Yeah, I'm going to play a Gungan. And I made it playable. And I made it memorable. I mean, I just took it and like, I didn't do a Jar Jar Gungan. I did like a Boss Nass Gungan, one of the big fat ones. And he was a gambler. So that made him interesting automatic. And he had an 18 dex. I mean, he wasn't much on strength and anything else, but he sure could get out of the way of those blaster fire.
Okay.
So yeah, I made it fun. You know, I can make any here's me bragging again. I can make any character fun. Hear me, Matt Mercer? I still have the challenge out there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. I don't have really. See, when I say I don't want to race in my world, it's usually because I'm dealing with 5e players. Like, Gage is okay if I don't let him play a Dragonborn.
Okay.
In fact, he's not playing a Dragonborn right now in the Eberron campaign. He's playing a Warforged. If that Warforged managed to stay alive next session. But he's playing, you know, I like to keep the races that were originally there in the world. And since I don't play Dragonlance, I don't have to worry about something like Kender.
Right.
But
once they started, like, once, like back in the 2E days, I mean, it became like, well, they're an official race. Like, well, yeah, in their own world. No, but now that we got Spelljammer and Planescape, all these races can coexist because they can all interact. So if I want to play, it's like, oh.
Yeah, I know.
So,
it's but like I said, I don't like we're playing Eberron. I'm okay with Warforged. I'm okay with Artificers or stuff like that because it's baked. See, these kind of things are what I call baked into the setting.
Right.
It's what makes the setting. And sometimes that's races too.
Right. Well, in this case, like, you know, obviously Kender or your halfling surrogate.
Yeah.
Matt Jackson, all Kender should die. And I'll have words with anyone who says otherwise. They suck almost as bad as gnomes.
No, Derek, don't pit. He's trolling.
I know.
Don't feed the troll. Don't feed the troll.
I can feed this troll because it's a wee troll. And if he acts up, I'll just suggest that he can fall again and break his arm. Again. No. Listen, this is the ball busting that happens within the game group, and that's part of it.
Yes.
But, here's the thing. And I don't know what the background is to Matt's aversion to gnomes. I see gnomes as a race that doesn't really have a place. I don't have an aversion to them. It's just like, well, they're not halflings, and they're not dwarves. They're a little bit of an elf because they can be an illusionist, which before Unearthed Arcana was the most worthless spellcasting class you could be in AD&D 1E.
Oh, I don't know about that. I played a few and I enjoyed myself.
Oh, I Unearthed Arcana made them a viable alternative, but the problem with being an illusionist in a party was if you only have the illusionist as your spellcaster, it means you're not reading magic scrolls, you're not getting fireballs, so much you're not going to get. So the illusionist was always the secondary caster.
Okay, I'll buy it.
Now, I found that an illusionist was viable. Here, I gamed the system. I think we've all dealt with players who gamed the system. I gamed the system. I was like, I had a vision as to what I would like to see in my illusionist. And rolling via the Unearthed Arcana, what was it, Method 7, the dice are rigged method, which you can't really screw up with. I rolled as a fighter because I was going to start as a fighter. And I got 18 exceptional strength. I got a high dex. And I got lucky. I had a high intelligence. And I was like, hey, you know what I can do with this character? I can take fighter, get the second level, and I can flip him to illusionist. And now I'll have an illusionist with 2d10 for their base hit points.
Nice.
Using Unearthed Arcana, I can wear Phantom Armor. Phantom Armor lasts until dispelled, but it has to be believed. Well, if I see a guy carrying a two-handed sword, because that's what I took for my fighter as a specialization, walking around in plate armor, you're going to believe it. So it became a viable combination. But I would have played like a gnome illusionist thief.
Here's the thing. Let's talk about illusionists for a minute. Gnome illusionist, human illusionist, whatever. Well, first of all, we were playing in RC Labyrinth Lord. We had to add a gnome race to that in Matt's game. And because I wanted to kind of try an illusionist, and you can't play an illusionist in basic D&D because you know why? They have one spell. One. That's an illusion spell.
Yep.
Yeah. Phantasmal Force. That's it.
Doesn't get better.
So, yeah, it doesn't get, you can't do, so it's like, yeah, I'm, Phantasmal Force is a great spell. I've seen it done very well and very powerful, but one spell? Also, let's talk about believing things for a minute. I read in a book, I don't know if it was a D&D book, could have been Tunnels and Trolls and stuff, where they had a whole big diatribe about how you deal with people who belief and disbelief. And it was mostly focusing on like damage.
Okay.
If I fire a lightning bolt, an illusionary lightning bolt at you and you believe it, will you be taking damage in the real world?
Well, I think that's why we got the improved Phantasmal Force and Spectral Force, so they could do some damage or whatever. The thing that comes down to with illusionists, it requires, in my opinion, a strong, skilled GM / DM, you want to call them, to handle something that is not going to be guided by rules as written, because illusions are never covered well. They don't spend enough time explaining how to handle illusions and how to handle disbelief. That's like, all right, well, that red dragon is silent. Oh, well, maybe I don't believe it. Well, that wall is silent. Oh, no, I don't believe the wall. How do you differentiate?
Yeah, I gotcha.
And the rules really aren't there. And there was an article, again, back in Dragon Magazine, probably, I don't know, in the 80s, 70s or 80s. Not the years. I mean, this is when the number-wise. It was in the 70s or 80s number-wise. And it was dealing with illusionist magic, and it was well written. And God, I'll probably have to look it up at some point. But I think there is certainly a place for illusions and illusionist kind of characters.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of spells that invisibility, mirror image, all these spells work upon illusions. I don't like the way 2E handled magic, and they broke it down by class. Like, oh, you're an enchanter, which means that you get an extra enchanter spell, but you don't get an evocation spell, or whatever the hell it was.
I was in a game one time that had a spell that it was an illusion spell, but I can't remember if it was Fantasy Hero or D&D or whatever. Maybe he got it off of one of the D&D supplements, but it was a time spell where he could cast the spell and go up to 5 turns back and change what he's doing. What a pain in the ass. I mean, the GM almost had conniptions trying to, okay, we're going to play the last 5 turns.
Yeah. All right. What happened in the last 5
turns? We're going to roll it back and do it again. And everybody's going, no, we don't want to have to, there was no way to really easily adjudicate it. That's what I'm saying. That's one of those spells that, like, it's great in concept,
right, but
sucks in execution.
Well, I mean, didn't maybe I'm misremembering it, but didn't 2E have a Chronomancer class, like a special, like? It
the
was
School of Chronomancy. I think it did.
I think it was
one
I think it was
of the splat books. I think it was
Yeah.
the Wizard's Handbook or something.
No, I think it was a separate. I remember. Oh, see, now I'm gonna have to look this up. Like Chronomancer, ADND2E. Let's see. Oh yeah, there was. I'm not totally losing my mind. Okay, it was 1995. Chronomancer. So
What was it in?
it was.
Or was it a dragon thing?
It's its own book. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can. Oh, it's on drive-through.
Oh.
Oh my God! All right, hold on.
We're in trouble.
Hold on here for a second. I'm going to put because to me this was not a very viable class. I owned it because I owned I bought everything back in those 2E days.
Oh yeah, everybody did.
So here. Let's
Chronomancer 5e. Oh, that's a module.
No. Optional optional game accessory.
Huh.
By
class?
Lauren
For whole
Coleman.
school?
A book about time traveling wizards.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's dedicated to a specialist magic user, but it wasn't part of the Player's Handbook series.
And
I
remember reading as a kid.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I mean, oh my God, you know the history, and this is pretty weird. When the Shannon Appelcline article at the end is
They quote a what?
Shannon was it Shannon Appelcline? He's the one that does. He's the like the Designers and Dragons guy. He did the history of role playing.
Oh yeah, okay.
When the write up of the product is basically 3 paragraphs, and then the write up of the history of this product
is like 10.
Oh man, it's like 2 or 3 pages. Yeah, I don't think it's worth $10 for me to relive my past. I'm sure it's somewhere in my closet.
I saw it in passing. I was never interested.
Well, I just my recollection is it's like this doesn't really work in practice, but that became a lot of things from that era. I think a lot of the 2E stuff was not. Well,
Doc is right. None of that short-term change through things through time travel crap. I wouldn't put it in my game either.
No, because and it's one thing if it's like, all right, I want to skip ahead 10 minutes. Our characters are going to do 10 minutes of movement to get away from here and suddenly be somewhere else. That's different. But to go back and rewind history, even immediate history, that's maybe the last round you could redo, but 5? No,
I spent a lot of time in 2E. And you know what one of my favorite spells was, which I believe was an illusion spell, was There Not There.
Really?
You cast it on something like an object or a door or a portal or whatever. People have to make a roll to see it every time every not every round, but they gave an example like, okay, say a fighter and a dwarf are carrying a chest and it's got that cast on it. They put the chest down. They turn around to go examine walls or whatever, and they turn back and they both make it. The dwarf fails the roll. The fighter makes it. Fighter sees the chest. The dwarf sees nothing. And then they turn around again and do something else. This time they both fail it and it's gone. It keeps bouncing in and out of existence.
Was a chest here.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
And I said, I'd love to put that on a door. Because if it's not, here's the thing. If they fail and it's not there, they're not getting through that door because it's a solid wall to them.
Right.
It's like an existence spell.
All right, but I got a question for you. If it's, well, actually, see, I can have a player argue the reverse, that if it's not there, then there's no door, there's an opening in the wall.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
See, and again,
And
that's
so and, if two people are, one makes his roll, one fails his roll, you can't go through that door, and then he watches him walk through the wall.
right.
How did he do that?
And again, this is one of those things where an experienced / skilled GM DM is needed, because we love our RPGs, we love our rules.
Mm-hmm.
No rule set, not even 5e, not even Pathfinder can cover every situation. That's why we're playing with a human as the computer, because the human as a computer can go, all right, well, we can hand wave this, or I'm going to make a judgment call. Whereas
I don't think I'd be in gaming if that was the case, of everything was codified.
Right.
Where's the fun in that?
Well, that's the whole thing about thinking out of the box, right? When you're stuck in the box, it's literally playing a game out of a box. The way I used to look at it, maybe I still do, is that RPGs, for the most part, some of them are marketed in boxes, just the starter sets, but for the most part, RPGs are books, right? You're given a book.
Yes.
You're given a book, you're not even given a board, and here's this book. So that means that the board and the pieces and everything else are going to be up here. And when they're in your head, it's a different experience than playing, I don't know, Ticket to Ride, or
Catan or something.
Catan, yes, or any of those games. It's a different experience. Which these are all. There's no interpretation of the rules that really. The rules are simplified. They're spelled out. And RPGs, even if the rules are simplified, it's because nothing is spelled out. And even if the rules are complicated, it means that there's going to be, by necessity, rules that will conflict with other rules. And when your players find that shit, you as the DM, you've got to make a decision. And
that's another reason why they don't have everything in a book.
Yeah, and that's another. I think it's another reason why systems like Pathfinder 1E at some point collapse in upon themselves. 2E was. I'm not. I don't even like 1E. I had bought the original. I bought that back in the beginning of Pathfinder because I was like, oh, this is interesting stuff, and it's well written. And even if I don't use it as it is, it's inspirational. But once you have like your, I don't know, third or fourth Game Master supplement, hardcover book coming out, telling you how to be a game master, you're going to get to the point now where, just by the nature of the beast, you're going to have rules that are conflictory or it's too much. I can't go with a game with 7 GM books and place it at the table to make sure and reference it. So
and to complicate matters, you have house rules.
Yes. Well, we didn't call them house rules back in the day. At least we didn't. I mean, we just
this is how we play it.
Yeah.
Doc, you're absolutely right. Toss out and change rules. Yeah, I've gone through those and go, okay, I like that. I don't like that. I've got standard stuff I throw out of D&D every time I run it. Number 1, weapon speed.
Oh, weapon speed is gone. It is done. We tried
number 2, psionics.
Fair enough.
Psionics used to be number 1 until I played in Brian's game from Thicko's Hammer, and he is in love with weapon speed, and I hated it.
But does he understand it? See, that's the whole thing. I can never wrap my head around it.
Well, you just add it to your to hit or armor.
No, initiative roll, but not really.
Initiative. You add it to your initiative, I think. But either way, it's a number you don't need to add.
No.
As far as and when I go through games to figure out what I want to change, I'm looking with an eye towards don't add rolls. Have the rolls you need. And you don't have to add more. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So because these games they'll add okay, you need this, and what weapon speed is, I don't need to add another number to my roll or whatever it is. Yeah, it does. Exactly. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't make. I never said it doesn't make sense. I just don't like it
Well,
because it slows the game down.
All right. So, Glenn, do you use segments in the game in AD&D? So
I
it's
can never.
spellcasting. I'm casting a fireball. Well, your initiative roll, it would go off on a 3, but it's a fireball. It'll go off on a 6, and if you get hit between 3 and 6, your spell is interrupted.
No.
Okay.
Because I run mostly basic, and basic don't do that.
Yeah. No. With AD&D, there's a bunch of stuff that we would generally strip out. Psionics was depended on a group. Odds are nobody could roll it anyway, so it wasn't usually.
Here's something that differs from like the current edition.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of current edition I don't like, which why I don't run it. But the point is, like Matt's basic game, his RC game, he does the old movement of like, okay, one of you guys roll initiative, I'll roll initiative. Whoever gets the highest goes first, and then he'll start okay, you're first. Movement phase, missile phase, magic phase. Man, that drives me up the frickin' wall.
Oh yeah, no.
And five. Okay, I don't like that. Also, now 5e or the current version does the everybody. Well, actually, they like to do everybody roll once per encounter, but we changed it back to roll once per turn.
Okay.
But the point is, you have to ask around, what did you roll for initiative? What did you roll for initiative? And write them down,
Right.
None of that crap with my game. Why are you making me work so much? I just roll it, so everybody roll a D6 or a D10 or whatever the hell we're using. And then I go 10, 9. You guys remember who's going. I know when I'm going. Make them work.
All right. So here, we're going to go over a few things. We all agree, it looks like, that we're going to take out weapon speed, right? We're going to take out segments. If you're taking out segments, you're likely taking out spell interruption, which is fine, especially at low levels.
If I have an issue with spell interruption, say they roll, because I still have the old, we move simultaneously if we both roll the same initiative number. So what I would do in that case would be to have the person throwing the spell roll a d20 and have the target roll a d20, see who moves first.
Okay.
That works.
Now, I got a question for you then, Glenn. Since you've taken away weapon speed, are you using the weapons versus armor adjustment?
Hell no.
Thank you.
Hell no.
And the reason why, and I'll tell you why it used to frustrate me, it's because it only applied against, I guess, humanoid and demi-humans, because monsters, it's like, didn't match up. It only went down to, I think, AC2, the armor worn by the intelligent races. So if something was an AC -1, how do you make that decision? What the adjustment? And it's another chart to have to look at. Everything that slowed down the game was a pain in the ass.
That's right.
I mean, that's why these things got dropped. And now it's interesting is that all these things were put into the system for the system that was supposed to be the by the book system for convention play. And I don't recall these things ever being used in convention play when I went to convention.
Yeah.
Because it was very unwieldy. I mean, we could talk about unarmed combat in 1E, and why does it have a totally different resolution system than combat? Why does it, why does your level have nothing to do with it? Why is it a percentile roll? What the hell is going on with that shit? Initiative, Doc. So listen, when I played in Matt Finch's Mythos game, the Swords of Wizardry, back in my first North Texas, I guess, I don't know. I'm going to throw out a number there, 2014, 2015, something like that. He actually had initiative go from a high dex to low dex. which was, and then you sat at the table because he would do,
Mhm.
I don't know, 14, 16, 20 people at the table. Only problem is I was playing with my wife, so I had to take a hit of my decks just to stay next to my wife because I was like, I'm not sitting somewhere not near my wife. So, but it's an interesting way to do it, especially with larger groups. That way you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
all these extra roles. Oh my God, you people are chatting away. Holy
You know
crap.
what I really, yeah. You know what I really didn't like was the option of ablative armor,
Oh,
armor that gets worse as
well,
you use it.
was that an option in
Now,
as written?
let me
Really?
caveat. I hate pretty much most all of the systems. I think that was a Dragon article or something like
Okay.
that. Shields will be broken or
You're
whatever.
probably right. Yeah.
But the point is, I didn't like it until I read Tunnels and Trolls. And they have ablative armor in there, but it made sense to me. And it's like, okay, this ain't going to slow the game down. We can do this. It's
Right.
up to the person wearing the armor whether or not they want to push the armor beyond what it's supposed to protect. That's where you get a percentage of it being a blade of, wearing
Right.
out. I like that. It puts the onus on the player, on
It's a good
the
compromise.
character.
But then again,
Yeah.
at the same time, like Tunnels and Trolls had combat, which turned into mass. Pretty much every combat was a mass combat. One side would add up their dice, the other side would add up their dice, and the side with the lowest dice total took the difference in
Yeah, I
dice
try to.
as damage. Missile weapons were a horror if you mixed it into that shit. Oh my God.
I like the idea, and when we stopped playing it, only later on I read the book again, and I thought, this could work. It's just that I think like people like Ken St. Andre and his
Right.
group and all that, they just break it down to each fight. They break down to smaller battles. Okay, these two guys are fighting you. You guys roll together. These three guys are fighting you two guys. You guys roll your dice together. And that would make it more manageable.
Right, and that wasn't really explained very well in the 5th edition of the rules, which was the
No,
rules
it
that were out
wasn't.
there for the longest time.
And the biggest thing that Tunnels and Trolls has as a problem is non-melee combat, like throwing spells or mostly ranged weapons. How does that go against,
What?
Do they hit? Do they take the damage? Does that go in the total? What?
Yeah, that always confused. That's why I always TNT. I always preferred as either a one-on-one RPG system or a solo system, but it worked okay one-on-one. Maybe two PCs and you jam. But once you got to like a party of even 3 or 4, it seemed to break down under its own. I won't say weight. There isn't that much weight to TNT, but just you saw the gaps in the system. It was more obvious the more.
Well, I've always, when I read that, and I read some stuff that Ken wrote and stuff, and I thought to myself, if I ever run this again, I'm going to take that into consideration and try it. It'll probably be a lot easier because in Japan, they did a box set of deluxe Tunnels and Trolls, and it included a calculator.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah. You got the 3 books and a calculator.
So
I see. This is one of the reasons I allow electronics at my table. It's like, okay, we're going to fight. Everybody, pull up your calculator app. I also use it because people are going to have electronics at the table anyway. So
no,
I allow it because everybody in my table. I have the physical book. They have it on PDF on their phone or tablet. And it's like, that's how they look up the rules and stuff. That way I don't have to have like 5 books at the table being thrown around.
Yeah. There's a fine line between all right, to me it isn't a fine line. I prefer my RPGs in general lighter, but there are some games like RuneQuest that I'm very happy to try to sit down and learn all the rules and be able to bring that whole thing to my game table. But
if you've ever played Call of Cthulhu, you know the rules.
oh yeah, no, you know the basics, and it feels familiar. I ran RuneQuest Second Edition back in my college days, and it was a blast. And we didn't have any ducks in the party either, so I guess ducks would be the PC race in RuneQuest that many GMs go.
Hey,
No,
remember? Hey, in D&D, remember the space hamsters? That was
oh my
mainly
god,
Spelljammer.
that was Spelljammer. Yes.
Yeah, the giant space hamsters that
But,
the gnomes would take care of.
yeah,
I think their spelljamming ships had a giant wheel that they ran on to power it.
it could be.
If not, I'd make it that way.
I always preferred Planescape over Spelljammer, but at the same time, I don't remember how the two of them got to coexist in the same universe. I had Spelljammer. It was interesting. It required a different look on it. You almost needed to have, I guess, almost a John Carter of Mars look of the way.
Right. It's more pulp fantasy.
Yeah, the way the universe,
which I love. That's why I like running Hyperborea. I hear you.
Flying ships. You have flying ships in Hyperborea.
Oh, I keep saying that. I like steampunk. I like steampunk in my fantasy, and I'll put it in space and run. I'd love to run a Treasure Planet game, because to me, Treasure Planet was that's as close as we're going to get to a Spelljammer movie.
Okay, I'll roll with that.
Yeah, that would be fun.
It would be. I mean, we could probably do a whole episode one day just talking about the various 2E settings. That probably crushed TSR under their weight.
Yeah, I mean, the Treasure Planet game is only second to my Star Wars mixed with the Dukes of Hazzard game.
That almost scares me, but okay. But
I would put it in the original trilogy too.
Who gets the General Lee? That's my question.
Oh, the General Lee is one. What's that speeder that Luke drives? That'd be the General Lee.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Fair enough.
I kind of did that in Mutant Future. I had a couple of brothers in one of those speeders, a couple of mutant brothers that helped out the heroes. I even had the horn. That was fun. Yeah.
So John Miller, I love the idea of D&D in space and love aspects of Spelljammer, but the weird cosmology in Spelljammer was a deal breaker.
Phlogiston.
Oh my god, yes, I was like, huh? Crystal spheres, it's fun, but doesn't even match medieval cosmology.
See, that's when I saw Treasure Planet. I'm going, oh, this is Phlogiston, and they're in a bubble. Okay, fine.
It's like, I think they could have, sometimes I think game designers overthink things, and they want to put all this cool shit in, and at some point they should have just said, hey, the concept can be basic, but the details can be exceptional, as opposed to let's just keep on making the concept more exceptional. I think they, I guess they wanted. I guess they. Oh, you can't steal things from medieval cosmology. We borrow shit all the time.
Well, I meant like I have guns in my world, so my fantasy world. So
okay.
I like the idea of blunderbusses and flintlock pistols and all that kind of stuff. I think in my regular world, which is steampunk, I usually have air rifles and air pistols, and the cannons are steam cannons. So now we got guns. We can have a proper pirate campaign.
Proper pirate campaign.
You can't really have I mean, to me, it's guns and swords. That's pirates. Also, you can kind of do a riff on like the Three Musketeers. That would be cool.
Oh, actually, since you've mentioned pirates, and you were usually a bit more wired in on this one than I am, do we have our yearly YAR update as to why we haven't seen YAR?
Haven't heard. Haven't heard since last time. Yeah.
I mean,
that just pops up maybe once every 6 months.
Yep. And listen, I'm willing to I don't know, what are they back for? $20, $25? I'm just willing to let it go at this point.
Yeah, I'm one of these days it's going to show up. I didn't even change my address on that yet. I should do that.
Oh shoot, yeah.
Yeah,
in case it actually does show up, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, how late is that one right now? 5 years maybe? I haven't checked.
It's not a Far East, but it's close.
Far West.
Far West. Sorry.
It's okay. I at this point it's far from anything. So
right now I'm sorry it isn't going to be here for the con. I'm just waiting for Hyperborea 3rd edition.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say at the top of the episode is, we have a special guest. Nobody. We should think about getting Matt Finch on because he's getting ready to do the Kickstarter for the new Tome of Adventure design.
Yeah, when is the new Toad kicking off? Which
I don't know. I just saw a notice on Facebook for it, but I think he said a couple of weeks or something like that.
All right, dude, reach out to me.
Yes.
No Far West update since probably February 1st or whenever the last update saying that you'll get it by February 1st. Which before that it was you'll get it by the end of the year. Which before nothing.
Hey Woodard, is this set up better? You can see me. You can hear me.
You can see. You can hear. There's no stutter.
One new computer and microphone later.
There you go.
Yeah.
What we do for you, Mr. Woodard.
For you, the people, wherever you are.
And even the people that aren't yet people, if you're younger.
And viewers like you. Thank you.
Thank you. This is brought to you by absolutely no one except for our audience and support.
You, the people. That's right.
See,
thank you.
You got Wild Guy's overwhelming support there, Glenn.
Yeah, my man in LA.
Bum. Chip, my friends had a great time with Spelljam. However, I'm almost 50 now. I much prefer a grittier, grounded game now. Tastes change.
They do. They do.
Part of the reason why
I never understood what they talked about when you say, I know what high magic fantasy is, but when you say low magic, I don't quite understand because it can go in so many directions.
I always saw.
I mean, the magic is ramped down. I understand that part.
Well, and there's all right, so low magic campaign. I'm just going to throw some numbers out there. Maybe your 5th level fighter has a magical sword and maybe, if they're lucky, a magical shield and nothing else. Magic.
What about
no magic armor yet. Your magic items are unique in their existence. Nobody's getting +1 swords. Yeah, maybe you got Sting, and Sting is what? +1 sword that glows when orcs and goblins are there. Yeah. But I mean, you're not walking around with your I don't know, your manservant, your we'll make him a gnome. We don't have your gnome coming along carrying your bag of golf clubs. I mean, your bag of weapons for you. Oh, hold on a second there.
And I guess mages are kind of rare.
Mages would be rare, or at the very least, Your fifth level mage may have a +1 ring of protection. They're not going to have a robe. They're not going to have bracers. Probably
Right.
don't even have a dagger. And
But
maybe the only spells they have are the ones they've gained through gaining levels, and maybe 2 or 3 others. Like, you don't use scrolls to cast spells from, because scrolls are so rare. You get a spell that you can use now or later.
you write
It's
it down.
not an issue. You don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
So,
But there's, yeah, I can understand. See, to me, Hyperborea could be a low magic game, but there is magic in it. There's a lot of magic in it. This is why I thought for a longest time you can't do a Conan type game if you like magic.
okay.
Because Conan was always anti-magic, and all the bad guys seemed to be mad mages.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not to mention oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Glen.
No, I said not to mention all the evil wizards in Thundar.
Oh, well. I mean, I think that, like, with D&D, when they introduced barbarians in Earth Arcana, and they got experience points by destroying magical items, I think that was a conflict that you put into player groups that was not needed.
True.
Maybe it works fine in a convention, but you don't want that amongst your players. I never really wanted to enforce that one.
I mean, look at. I just lost my thread. Lost my train of thought there.
Oh, you're allowed.
Had something to do with magic, I know. But yeah, I just thought that, if you're going to do like all barbarians who hate magic, you're going to be very low magic. That kind of thing.
It's going to be self-enforcing, right? Or you're going to, oh, here, right? We don't have any clerics, so I gave you some cleric scrolls. So your barbarian can destroy your cleric scrolls for experience points.
That's the equivalent of, you don't have a cleric, here's a lot of healing potions.
Oh, well, he won't take the healing potions. Well, it's a good thing he's got an 18 constitution, so he rolls D12 plus 8 for his hit points. So thank God for that. It's like, oh, jeez.
I know. I'd play in that, Doc. I'd play in that.
I saw James Seymour come in and say squirrel, and I thought it was going to be James Bond.
Yeah. Okay.
In the Scarlet Citadel, Conan teamed up with a sorcerer named Polias to escape the evil sorcerer. Oh man, I can't. Sathalanti's dungeon.
His dungeon.
But the good sorcerer still comes off as a bit creepy. Well,
of course, because magic is mysterious and evil. Yes.
Right. And that's the setting. That's the default setting that you're going to go with over there. So
yeah. I'm sort of a medium magic guy. I don't mind if it's in everyday life, as long as it's small and inobtrusive, and save the big guns for when you're on the adventure.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you don't be throwing lightning bolts all over town or something. But, it comes in handy when you're going into that temple, that abandoned temple.
Fair enough. You're right. I mean, there's a balance to it. I guess if I was going to lean one way or the other, it would be, I guess if you're going from a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being low and 5 being high and 3 being the middle, I'm around a 2, maybe a 2.5.
Doc,
to,
Doc says his game's going to be sort of Doc Savage meets D&D, which I would definitely play in that. I love me some pulp. In fact, Monday Eberron game is like that. Very, very exciting. My character carries around a blunderbuss and a bandolier of 4 flintlock pistols, along with his bastard sword and a dancing sword. So yeah, we've had our share of our share of cliffhangers. Let me put it that way.
I can believe it. And that's a well armed individual, especially since those are all one shot weapons.
Yes, he wanted to do 6 guns, and there's in Eberron there are trains, and so we were on a lightning train, and so they had a train hold up that we had to stop, and he said, you got 6 guns. I says, I don't want 6 guns. I want flintlocks. I want one and I'm done. Then I pull out the sword. That's the way I like it. I don't think, things like 6 guns or anything more modern belong in that kind of fantasy game.
Well, I think that it takes, you've got fantasy and you can push your fantasy. Again, blunderbusses, flintlocks, at that beginning level of firearm technology. But once you get, 6 shooters, what is a 6 shooter? It's basically, on a semi-automatic weapon that fires 6 times as opposed to putting a magazine in where you fire, 10, 15, however many rounds. It's still 6 rounds. Unless it's a very unique character like Murrayland, right? The 6 shooting paladin that they highlighted in Dragon magazine back in issue 70.
You're dating yourself. You're dating yourself there.
Yeah, but Murrayland's spoon where you can always eat the slop that is constant. As long as you don't want to eat slop, you'll always be well fed. He had a 6 shooter, but that was a unique situation, and I don't even know. I would never want that to be a standard part of a setting. I just think it's a bit much.
I remember, I think it was in Savage Worlds that in Pulp, one of my guys got a 6 gun that is, I think it's a 6 gun that never needs reloading. Kind of a magical thing. Because I forget what I think I was running the Goon, which is like Pulp with fantasy elements. But
I know he had one. I know a 6 shooter is not a semi-automatic. However, in effect, having a 6-shot revolver and having a semi-automatic pistol, have them both. I can fire 6 rounds without reloading, or I can fire 15 plus 1, 16 rounds without reloading. It's again a pull the trigger gives me a round. It is effectively the same, even though the nomenclature or the proper terminology would say it's different. The effect is the same.
Yep. I love this format for the show. We just bounce around from here to there to everywhere.
Well, it's because we have a great live audience. If it wasn't for the most amazing live audience on the interwebs,
yes, that's right.
This would stop.
All right. Tenkar's audiences are the greatest audiences in the world.
Indeed.
Yes.
Well, wow, we're hitting the hour and a half mark, Glen.
Yeah, how about that? We should stop counting time. Really. I'm surprised Bad Mike didn't show up. He usually lurks around there sometimes.
Yes, I'm a damned Yankee, and I'm proud of it. Gosh darn it! Although I couldn't tell you who's left playing for the Yankees besides, was it Judge? Yeah,
it's all right. I'm a California dude, so
So, folks, some quick things. Live stream tomorrow night with myself and my lovely wife, Rach. We're going to do Gamers Health. What the topic's going to be, God only knows.
Who knows?
Maybe we'll address some mental health is a touchy one, but we'll see what we touch on. We are about, I think, 15 or 16 subscribers away from giving away $250 of Drive-Thru RPG gift certificates on this channel. We will have $50 to give away on a Friday night with Glen and I, $50 on our Friday night with the random generated gaming party, $50 on with Rach and I on a Saturday on Gamers Health, and we'll give away $100 worth, probably multiple ones on one of the ones.
Okay. Put the next one up. I'm curious. James Seymour says, anybody allow instant Legolas in your games? What the heck is instant Legolas?
Is it that? Is it the? Oh my God!
Oh, the repeating, yeah, arrows.
No, no. Not even. I didn't like it when people in Unearthed Arcana would specialize in bows, because I had to be the DM that would give them very few potentials for that point blank range where they could fire multiple shots at once or whatever the hell it was.
Well, I can't see using that because RPGs have they have enough trouble with something like 2-weapon fighting.
Right.
And every RPG has to deal with 2-weapon fighting, and I don't know why.
Well, here's the thing: like Legolas in the movies, that's not the first time we saw that in the movies, right? Hawk the Slayer. The Slayer had that automatic crossbow. It's like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. So no, it's been done before, just not done now.
I see this Hawk the Slayer poster kind of bothers me because the guy looks like he's dressed like Han Solo.
No, it's it is the day. It is the season. They probably, yes, Reynolds from the Hawk the Slayer had a repeating crossbow. Yep.
Yeah, if we got guns, can we get Gatling guns? Spell Gatling guns. They're all magic missiles.
All right, see now this is the point. I gotta cut Glen off now, man. That's it. Glen's gone over the edge. We're gonna go into dangerous territory.
Got all these wands sticking out of like a Gatling gun, and just here we go.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You're lucky it ain't. You're lucky it ain't fireballs. Oh, I crack myself up,
folks. Again, a huge thank you to the live audience. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, you guys are great.
You keep us laughing. You keep me on my toes. That's awesome. Other than that, I'm going to start weaning myself away from the we're in the midst of the world of COVID shit, because we're still in it, but you wouldn't necessarily know it. They've almost forgotten COVID right now because of other world events going on. But I'm going to leave it as usual common sense. If you're going to be at GaryCon next week, remember, you're still going to have to wear masks, I believe, except the hotel guests that aren't there won't have to wear masks. So you figure that one out for yourself.
Which reminds me, next episode we should probably talk about conventions as a whole, since it's getting into convention season.
You're right. No, you're definitely right. Maybe let's see. I guess the next one will be North Texas. I'm definitely going there.
Yeah, but the next show we do, we should get Bad Mike on there, and all three of us will talk about conventions.
Okay. Well, I will reach out to the Bad Mike. You reach out to the Matt Finch.
All right, you first. Yours is easier to get.
You first, man. You first. But we'll hook that shit up, folks. As always, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. Roll them well. Thank you.
Listen to Radio Grognard and Thaco's Hammer.
Amen.
And Tavern Chat and all the other permutations and live streams of Eric's internet empire.
Oh God, yes. I'm not sure if we're PBS or if we're
the king of the internet.
We're not the king of the internet. Please, I don't want to be the king of the internet. What happens to kings, right? They go for the head. No, thank you.
That's all right.
All right. Later, folks.
All right. Yeah. Night, folks.